Welcome everybody to another episode of the Sleeper Wire Show. And if you are listening to this voice, then you know I am Nick Summerall, and I am back.
Woo!
Yeah, I'm so excited. It's been a long time. Missed a lot of the off season, but I'm hoping to be here for you guys during the regular season. And I don't do this alone, of course. Please welcome Adam.
Woo! Raise the roof. I'm here.
Woo-hoo.
I'm here. Thank you all. Thank you all for allowing me to be here in your presence today.
Well, thanks for being with us, Adam. I'm glad to be back, too. So we're going to be going over a lot of things today. We're going to, of course, go breaking down the preseason. Week 2 of preseason has wrapped up with the Colts and Baltimore Ravens. But before we get into any of that stuff, I want to tell you about the Draft Genius draft kit that we got going on. Adam, you have a ton of information, I'm sure, to share with our listeners. So please, break it down for us and tell us why people should be going out and getting this draft kit.
Well, let me tell you about this draft kit. This is made by the one and only Draft Genius. We got redraft, we got PPR, we got standard, we got dynasty, we got 250 redraft rankings, we got the Sleeper Wire rankings, we got the Draft Genius rankings, we got strategies, we got layout. We have articles laid out from every single draft position and who you'll be able to pick up from those different positions. We got it all in there. All you got to do is go to sleeperwire.com, hit the draft kit, and you'll see everything that we have. It's too much for me to even say. And thank you very much, Wooten Sports Apparel, the sports apparel, for sponsoring this year's draft kit.
It sounds amazing. It sounds fully loaded, and it sounds like it's the perfect draft kit for you guys to go out there and win your league. So please, don't be a fool. Go to sleepwire.com and download this draft kit today. All right, Adam. Okay. So we, of course, breaking the fourth wall. We do a little bit of show notes, and so I gotta say, am I a cat or dog person? Is the first question on here. I'm a dog person. What about you, Adam? What are you?
I am definitely a dog person, but the reason I put that on there is because Todd Gurley wants to get known as the crazy cat. Do you think Todd Gurley is a crazy cat?
I'm sure he's a cool cat. I mean, he lives in L.A. I've heard a lot of things about people in California. I'm working with one right now.
It's really nice and sunny up here. How's it going over there in New Jersey? I mean New York.
It's actually beautiful weather. You know why? Because we actually have seasons.
Yeah, we just have fire season.
Yeah, just fires and earthquakes and just too much sun. Yeah, it's beautiful. Todd Gurley, let me ask you this, breaking off from that question. Todd Gurley, is he the number one overall pick in your eyes this year?
Overall, bar none, number one. I hear a lot of people saying other things, but I've done, 50 mock drafts in this offseason, and I would say 70% at least, Todd Gurley goes number one. It's a much higher than everybody else. I mean, I'm seeing DJ, Zeke, and Bell. Bell, not so much, but DJ and Zeke have been switching number one. But overall, the popular majority, number one, Todd Gurley.
Now, it's interesting that you said Bell not so much, because in my mind, I think Le'Veon Bell should be the number one overall pick. Most reliable, when on the field, you know what they're going to do with him. You know he's going to be used to the full extent that they can, him being on this last year that they can franchise tag him, so they're going to put him to work. What concerns you, at least, about Le'Veon Bell that he wouldn't be your number one overall pick?
It's not, you can't really get concerned over the top four. I'm good with any of them, right? If I can get any of those top four. As a matter of fact, I think if you can get a draft position and you are able to choose, you're choosing 4. I think 4 is the best draft position you can possibly be in because you're going to get one of those guys. And those are the 4 bell cows of the season. Everybody agrees. They always go top 4. Maybe you'll see an Antonio Brown sneaked in there. Maybe a Saquon Barkley on a dynasty league. But for the most part, those 4 are going to go. So I don't care which one I get as long as I can get one.
Interesting. I just wonder why, because there's a lot of people out there who share your same views that, yeah, okay, Le'Veon Bell is in the mix for the top 4, but he's not really that guy I'm going and grabbing number 1 overall. And I just wonder why that is, because it just seems to me he has the safest floor of all of them. Maybe Ezekiel Elliott can give him a run for his money now that we're all through with the suspension issues from last year. That's not coming into play this year so far.
And can we say Zeke Elliott, friend of the show, right?
Friend of the show.
Yeah, been hanging out with us when we were at the Fantasy Football Convention this season. Now, I know you've been busy with the baby and everything, Nick, but Sleeper Wire was actually present at the Fantasy Football Convention
That's amazing.
In Texas. We were out there. We were passing out magnets, talking to people. Kenyon Drake, friend of the show. We got Zeke, friend of the show. Matthew Berry now, friend of the show. Told him to call our people. We said we'd call his people. We'll just see who has more people.
Well, that's it. That's the only reason we're calling back and forth to see how many people we have each. That's it. It's not like we want them on the show. Wink, wink. All right, let's get to it. Let's break down the preseason games because we got a lot to talk about.
We do. All right, so the first game we're talking about, right? The Bears and the Broncos. I put this in first, and this is the way we're going to divide the preseason games. We're going to divide them into games with some interesting information, and then all aboard the hype train. All aboard the hype train. Woo! Where the first game...
That was more like a siren. That wasn't really a train sound.
I have girls, not boys.
Went,
my girl is into My Little Ponies. Your boy can be into trains.
Have you never been around a train before? Is that what you're saying? Because you have little girls.
Yes, that's right. I have all of a sudden not been around trains.
So you don't know what they sound like because you have girls, and that. Because I kind of can't believe that California doesn't have trains that you would never have boarded on. In fact, I know you've boarded a train because we've talked about you.
I actually surfed and kayaked to work.
Yeah, I bet you did. Anyway, so carry on.
All right, so Bears and Broncos, the things you need to know about your boy, your savior, the man of the hour, the tower of power, Mitchell Trubisky, threw to his tight ends for most of the game, and 6 of his first 9 completions went to tight end and running backs. So is Mitchell Trubisky the savior of the Chicagoan people?
Well, he damn sure better be, because otherwise we are really screwed. But it's hard for me to say. We've only really seen him in such limited fashion, and I can't put that much stock into what I see in preseason because you're only looking at the tip of the iceberg as far as the playbook that they're going to use in regular season. So it's really hard to say how Mitchell looks. Is the use? I mean, we know that from reports out of Chicago that Nagy has an interest in getting tight ends involved. We've seen him when he was the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, how they got Travis Kelce involved. That's their plan with Trey Burton. So he's going to be a target monster, I think, on this team. And he's going to be really, really helpful for Mitch in the middle. So, I like what I saw out of the game with the connection between Trubisky and Burton, but I can't say, oh my God, Mitch, he played so well that he's the franchise. I mean, that's what we drafted him to be, but it's only his second year, so time will tell.
Well, see, and this is where it concerns me. What concerns me is that if he's throwing to his tight end, he's throwing to his running backs, he's checking it down, right? He's not going for the bombs. He's not going for the long pass. He's not going for the touchdowns. Not necessarily. He's going for the safe, easy play because he's getting hit under pressure. So I'm a little worried that he is not having the vision that people in Chicago were hoping he would have.
Well, I mean, that's unfair to say because you're looking from a preseason standpoint. But in practices, that's all they've been doing is throwing it deep. That's why they drafted a guy like Anthony Miller in the second round. That's why they brought in Allen Robinson. These guys are guys who can get it down deep. And Mitch has been showing, to do pretty well in that category. So I'm not concerned that they're not showing that off in a preseason. Because they probably want it to be a surprise coming into regular season. They don't want to show all their cards. It's kind of like last year when you saw in week 1 the impact Tariq Cohen made on this offense against the Falcons. Nobody saw that coming, and it was a huge surprise. And we almost actually beat the The Falcons last year, which would have been a pretty big win in our book last year.
All right, that's fair enough. Well, let's talk about the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos, my team. We had Royce Freeman with a touchdown in the second quarter. Now, I realize it's preseason, but I'm seeing Freeman's stock go up and up and up throughout the preseason and throughout the offseason. Actually, in dynasties, I've seen him drafted as early as the third round. Are we a believer in Royce Freeman? Now, you got to remember, during this game, Demaryius Thomas didn't play at all, and for the most part, their starters didn't play. So is Royce Freeman really the answer to Denver's running back situation? Is he the next Terrell Davis?
I don't know about Terrell Davis, but I've really liked what I've heard out of training camp about Royce Freeman. Not to mention, too, Devontae Booker doesn't scare me as like a threat to be that workhorse back for the Broncos. So, the only thing that scares me now is the rising of his ADP. I don't like that he's starting to go at the back end of third rounds, early fourth rounds. I really liked his value where he was back end of fourth round, maybe even, making it to the early to middle of the fifth round. That's where I loved his value. But there's too much hype now being on him, and I unfortunately, I don't see myself being able to get him in too many leagues. I'm not willing to spend a third round draft pick on Royce Freeman. I think he has upside to be a high end RB2, possibly even a low end RB1 at some point in the season, but I just can't take him in the third round. Not somebody that unproven with still question marks on how the offense is going to play in general. I mean, Case Keenum as the quarterback, he should be okay, but who knows? I mean, what if last season with the Vikings that was just a fluke for Case Keenum? We haven't seen him do anything beyond what he did last year that would say to us that he's a competent quarterback.
Yeah, and I think people listening should take this advice and apply it also to Courtland Sutton, because I'm hearing a lot of people out there saying he's the answer, he's the man. You got to remember, Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are still on that offense, and Case Keenum, an established quarterback, isn't just going to decide to start throwing to a rookie. He's going to throw to the guys who he knows makes 1,000 yards every season, and that's Demaryius Thomas. So don't go out and draft Courtland Sutton thinking that he's going to be the answer to your fantasy issues.
Well, because Courtland Sutton is only going to be out there on 3 wide receiver sets.
Yeah.
We're going to see Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders out there every time. They're going to be out for the majority of the snaps. Courtland Sutton's going to see a very minimal stat line unless we see one of these guys go down with an injury.
Correct. But that's a fluke, right? Then you're right. Why not draft James Conner then if you're worried about injury?
Of course, yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, there's certain handcuffs to situations I will grab late in drafts, and James Conner is one of those.
Sure.
I would love to have myself, especially if I'm the Le'Veon Bell owner. Yeah. Why wouldn't I be drafting him late?
But I'm not drafting, and neither should you guys, on the idea that somebody's going to get hurt. That's a wasted draft effort.
No, you shouldn't. And if you do intend to do that, save it for the end of the draft.
Yeah.
That's all.
All right. So let's talk about the Chargers and the Seahawks. Seahawks, not a lot to talk about here, except for the Seahawks offensive line, which looks to be in shambles. And week 1, they play against the Broncos, who we just talked about, with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller on the defense, coming at Russell Wilson week 1. I know Russell Wilson gets a lot of scrambling points, but man, I am concerned about Russell Wilson. We're talking about injuries. If your quarterback has to scramble all the time, you should be concerned. Russell Wilson drops in my quarterback rankings. He's not the quarterback 3 or 4 anymore for me, because I'm concerned about the amount of time he's going to be on his feet being chased.
I'm certainly not going to reach for Russell Wilson where his current draft price asks. I mean, I've seen him typically going in about the 6th or 7th round. I'd wait a couple rounds to be grabbing Russell Wilson. There's just other quarterbacks in that area that I might be more interested in. As far as the Seahawks are concerned, too, there's also was a report that came out today Rashad Penny, he actually could be on pace to play out the last preseason game.
Yeah.
So, which is surprising because the report was he'd be out 3 to 4 weeks with that hand injury after he had the surgery. So it's pretty surprising to see that he could be back sooner. But this offense, I don't understand why they went for a running back in the first round instead of grabbing offensive line help, which has been the well-known need for them. Outside, of course, now their defense that's deteriorated from Legion of Boom to Legion of Ooh. So, how are you going to help Russell Wilson in this running game get anywhere if they don't have anybody to protect them?
Yeah.
Or open up lanes. I mean, Russell Wilson's a running back in himself. You got to open up lanes for these guys. And listen, I think the opportunity there is for Russell Wilson to have at least a top 5 season, just because he's going to be the whole offense at this point, and they're going to be down in games way more than they ever used to, and Russell Wilson's going to have to rely on his legs, and they might get into more shootouts now in Seattle instead of keeping games close and all that. So I'm not opposed to drafting Russell Wilson, but I'm just not as high on him as usual.
Yeah, well, I'm higher on. I'll tell you who I'm higher on. I'm higher. They got to wait until the hype section to talk about him, but we could talk about him a little bit now. I'm higher on Cam Newton than I am on Russell Wilson. Cam Newton is playing with North Turner's new offense, and he's completed 75% of his throws. That's a far cry from where he was last season. 9 out of 12, 89 yards and a touchdown against the Dolphins, and good Lord, the Dolphins. Dolphins allowed 226 yards in rushing on this past preseason game, including a 71-yard by Christian McCaffrey. Man, what do you think about the Panthers and the god-awful Dolphins?
Well, before we jump right into that, I wanted to make a comment though, because we were talking about Seahawks and Chargers, just briefly.
Sure.
I just want to add something to the Chargers because they shouldn't be left out. Poor guys. They're good. They're a good team.
Okay.
I really like them. Quite the wide receiver running back duo there.
That's true. So let's talk about the Chargers.
Yeah. So listen, there's been all this hype though about. You want to grab Mike Williams late, and I think if he stays healthy, he could provide a role. But, the Hunter Henry injury certainly does boost his value. But I can't see him being more than your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. What do you think about Mike Williams?
Maybe wide receiver 4. Sure, put him in a flex. That's okay. But he's not somebody I'm going after in any drafts. Is he somebody you're going after?
I think if it depends on where he's falling. If I can get him in, say, I've been seeing him go around the 10th, 11th rounds. So I think that's fair, considering if you're, with the way drafts are working out these days, it's very running back heavy at the top. So if you're grabbing a guy like a Mike Williams as your wide receiver 4, I don't have a problem with that at all.
All right. So basically what you're saying is that you prefer Mike Williams over Julio Jones.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said, word for word. Word for word. I said draft Mike Williams over Julio, and if you don't, you're stupid.
Got it. Check.
Yes.
We're
right,
there.
Check. So, all right. Now I'll go back to your Panthers-Dolphins conundrum that you gave me. So the Panthers, listen, I understand it's a new offense, North Turner, and I understand that there's a lot of hype, and they drafted DJ Moore. That's it. Yeah, and they have Christian McCaffrey, and they've got Devin Funchess, and C.J. Anderson came into the look. I think that the offense could be better, but first off, that offensive line took a huge hit this offseason with Andrew Norwell leaving. That is a huge loss to that offensive line. I think Cam's just going to be scrambling more, which Is it the North Turner way? That's the strange thing. Like, is North Turner going to come in here and try to force Cam to throw more often than they run? Are they going to try to limit him from running, which is his strength? Because if that's the case, I don't know if he can. I don't think he can make that transition to rely on his targets and not just go for the run himself.
Oh man, I'm on the opposite side of that. I think that Cam's going to be more accurate and going to be better on his feet this season. I think he's going to bring some systematic changes to that offense, and I think those changes are really going to make a difference in the way that Cam plays. I am high on Cam Newton this season. I think that he is probably my QB3, QB4, somewhere right there.
So Cam Newton or healthy Carson Wentz?
Oh, Cam Newton, 100%.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, I got something to say about the Eagles and Carson Wentz, but yeah, Cam Newton. Cam Newton is like right there. I mean, he's probably above Russell Wilson. He's underneath Aaron Rodgers, maybe right there with the Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson. I'm a little iffy on. I almost feel like I have to put Deshaun Watson as a number 2 or number 3 because of what everybody's saying. But I'm a big fan of Cam Newton. I think he's going to do good things this season.
All right. Well, listen. I mean, he's always been an up and down kind of quarterback from year to year, but he does always provide that fantasy value due to the fact that he is good on his legs and able to get himself in the end zone with rushing touchdowns. Right. Now, as far as Miami is concerned.
Yes. Where's the dumpster fire clip? Hold on, let me hit that.
Oh, all this talk of a dumpster fire, it's just fake news.
I think that team is just an avoid. Even Kenyon Drake, who they can't even say they want to commit to. They brought in Frank Gore. They got Balaj back there, too, the rookie that they drafted, and they're high on him. It's going to be an ugly committee, and I think that's a shame because Kenyon Drake showed flashes last year, but this also reminds me of the situation that we had the year before with Jay Ajayi when he was with the Miami Dolphins, and I was pounding the table telling everybody, do not draft Jay Ajayi last year. He will be a bust. And sure enough, he was a bust.
Yeah, it's definitely feeling that way with Drake. I'm seeing Drake getting drafted way early. I've seen Drake get drafted before Mixon, and that's been surprising to me. Before McCaffrey. What are you doing?
Before Jordan Howard.
Yeah,
I mean, come on. I'm sorry.
I may not be Prophet Hoos, man, but, I mean, I have an idea of what's going on. Don't do that. Stop doing that.
Yeah, guys, please, just let Kenyon fall. And just don't. Don't waste your top picks on him. Let somebody else scoop him up and get that, give him that chance, but don't let it be you.
All right, well, you mentioned Wentz, so let's get to the next game. Patriots, Eagles, and the biggest takeaway from this is Wentz and Foles, because now you have 2 quarterbacks from the Eagles that may be out week 1, which means if you're in a 12-team 2QB league, you're in trouble if you're drafting a Eagles quarterback, because now you have to take Foles and Wentz and the next person, but you got to take all 3.
And make sure week 1 in DFS that you have Atlanta Falcons defense.
Yes.
I mean, seriously, if Carson Wentz, Foles don't play, there's also reports that Alshon Jeffrey might not be ready week 1. This offense is not going to look good, possibly for the first couple weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it developing into something great, but week 1, yeah, that's a great DFS play.
I don't know, man. To me, the Eagles' success last year, I don't want to call it a fluke, but it had that fluky vibe. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I do. I hope everybody else does too, but if they don't, I'm with you, Nick. I hear you.
Yeah, I just can't go. Like, I just don't see myself looking at an Eagles skill player on the draft board and going, wow, I've really got to get that guy. I don't see repeated success.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the Eagles. I would probably err on the side of caution there and just kind of stay away rather than get involved in the mess that is the Philadelphia Eagles. For right now, I believe that somebody's going to emerge from the waiver wire, or somebody's going to emerge that you can trade with, and we are going to be all over that this season because we're helping you with sleepers, right? So
absolutely,
it will come. It will come.
Well, there's one game that we should probably go back to. We missed in the notes, and that's the Bills and the Browns.
Do we have to?
We have to. Because you know what? Here's my thing, man. This is the first time I can think where I'm like, wow, the Browns.
Yeah.
Pretty intriguing. Some great options there. I'm loving getting me Jarvis Landry in my drafts. Loving it.
I'm hearing a lot of love for Jarvis Landry. I'm not understanding it, but I'm hearing it.
You're not understanding. Tell me what you don't understand. Maybe I can help you out.
If I understood what I didn't understand, I would understand it.
Understood. No, listen, I don't know what your hang-ups are. Maybe it's because Tyrod Taylor's the quarterback, which really shouldn't get you concerned. If anything, that should excite you, because I'd rather have Tyrod Taylor as the quarterback at this point, because he's going to check it down to a guy like Jarvis Landry, who's a PPR machine. And if anything, he only stepped up his game last year with the Dolphins and made himself better by being able to go down deep and grab more touchdowns than he normally does. If he's able to replicate that kind of success in Cleveland, and with a guy like Josh Gordon on the opposite side, who's always been a question mark, barely even able to play a full season at this point with all of his issues, I'd be loving me some Jarvis Landry, especially if he falls as my wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, like I've been able to grab him sometimes.
Okay. You're still not convincing me. Josh Gordon's there. You got Duke Johnson. You got Nick Chubb, and you have Carlos Hyde, which is now a super conundrum issue for me, because if I'm ever drafting a Cleveland running back, I now have to draft more than one, which I don't like, because I feel like it's wasting draft spots. And I feel the same way with wide receivers in Cleveland. If I draft Josh Gordon, I have to draft Jarvis Landry. And if I draft Landry and I don't get Gordon, I'm a little worried about what's coming after. Now, maybe Landry is the number 2, and so it's not as big of a concern, and I can see the hype on him. But there are so many weapons, and it's such a fresh team that I don't know where it's gonna go and how it's gonna shake out. It's not as certain as, let's say, Brady to Gronkowski for a touchdown.
I just think you're missing the point here. Josh Gordon's not going to be the guy to get the ball in his hands on every down. A guy like Jarvis Landry is the type that you will see getting 5 yards a clip down through the middle, where Tyrod Taylor likes to throw it. And I'm sorry, but these running backs, Duke Johnson's going to see some targets, but I don't think he's going to see the kind of targets he's used to seeing, considering that now there are other weapons involved in this offense. It's not just Duke Johnson and garbage.
Yes.
I mean, Duke Johnson's not the greatest check down running back, but he was serviceable and able to do what he was able to do because there was no one else. But now that you have all these weapons, I think Jarvis Landry is the best weapon that Cleveland has.
Okay.
But as far as Bills are concerned, I'm excited to see their next preseason game, considering that we hear that Josh Allen is going to be the starter. It would be nice to see what he can do. I'm assuming it's going to look pretty rough. That's my guess right now. But it would be a pleasant surprise if he actually looks like he's making connections out there. Guys like Calvin Benjamin and working well with the ones. He may even win the starting job. It's possible with the rotation of quarterbacks you got there. Nobody's really separating themselves. But if he's able to win the job and make the offense look good, I'd be pretty excited.
Okay, fair enough. I know a lot of people are excited for the Browns this year, and it's the most excitement Cleveland has gotten since King James left.
All right, so let's get into the next preseason game, Adam.
All right, so we have the Packers at 51 and the Steelers at 34. Let's hope this isn't a sign of things to come for the Steelers. Man, 51 points against you, but probably not. A lot of their players sat for a majority of the game. We had a Jimmy Graham touchdown catch, so that's nice. And then we get the whole, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't use his tight ends bullshit argument out there. So what do you think of Jimmy Graham?
I mean, listen, you can't say that the argument that Rodgers doesn't use a tight end is bullshit, because he really hasn't over the last, since Jermichael Finley?
Yeah, but if the position wasn't important, they wouldn't have it out there.
But
he didn't have a Jimmy Graham there.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You didn't let me finish. You rudely, you Californians rudely interrupted me.
I did. You East Coasters are known for your politeness, let me tell you.
Right. We are nothing but polite, you know. We don't spit on the ground you walk on. That's for sure. Listen. But what I was going to say is that they've never had a Jimmy Graham, like you just pointed out, and they also, the caveat there is they no longer have a Jordy Nelson.
Yeah.
That's what makes Jimmy Graham's addition the perfect timing for Aaron Rodgers to actually get a connection and a groove with Jimmy Graham. Because, and maybe I'm alone on this island, I'm not sure, but I am not the big Davante Adams believer that everybody else is. I just think he's been hyped up to a level where I hate his ADP. I don't think he's the number one receiving option on this team. I really don't. I mean, I think he's going to do fine because it's Aaron Rodgers and he will make him valuable, but I just don't see him being able to replicate the numbers he had last year.
Look, man, I'm sorry. You are the lone person, just like Napoleon on St. Helena's Island, man. You were just stuck there with this Davante Adams hate that you have. And I don't know why you have this hate for Davante Adams. I don't know what he did to you personally. Did he steal an ex-girlfriend of yours? Like, what happened? Why would you be so against this?
No, I've just seen him play, and I've also seen the year where he was supposed to be great when Jordy Nelson tore his ACL, and he really sucked. So he wasn't good. It was just last year when he wasn't playing with Aaron Rodgers.
If his name is Adams, I'm all on that train.
Well, of course you are, Adam. You love Adams.
I do. What could I say? I'm married to an Eve. All right. So Davante Adams, I'm high on him. You're not. There's no problem there. But do you think the Packers are going to be this monster team? This is my thinking. This is my concern here. I'm saying Aaron Rodgers getting drafted first every time. Every single time. Second round, third round, way before any other quarterbacks. We're talking, 10 rounds before Phillip Rivers is getting drafted. Is Aaron Rodgers worth a second or third round pick?
No quarterback is. But people are still going to reach for him regardless of what we say. And listen, I mean, as long as he can stay healthy, he should be one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks to finish out the league with the most fantasy points among quarterbacks. That's never been a question. He's always been able to deliver when staying healthy. But he's also getting older. I mean, he's not in his prime anymore. He's starting to get up there in age. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll just confirm this because I don't want to sound like a jerk and say something that isn't true. As I thought, I mean, he's 34. He's starting to reach that age where, listen, the jerk will have 6 more years to play, I'm sure, just because I hate him and he'll stick around just to, jab at me as a Bears fan. So I'm sure he'll still have 6 years. But we've seen he's breaking down. The collarbone injury, that's a serious injury to a quarterback. Look what it did to Tony Romo. So I'm just not. I think Aaron Rodgers is still going to put up the fantasy points if healthy, but his time's coming.
All right. Well, that's it for the games without the hype train. But what I want to do right now is I want to talk about 6 games that went on. I want to talk about 6 games that went on during the preseason that you are all aboard the hype train.
All aboard the choo-choo train. All aboard the choo-choo train. All aboard the choo-choo train. All aboard.
Choo-choo! All right. Hey, Adam learned what a train sounds like.
I had a boy in the time that you and I are.
Oh, okay.
All right. So the first guy I want to talk about is the guy I'm all aboard the hype train on, and so is this guy. So I want you to listen to this, Nick, and tell me what you think.
Oh my God, was it good? I'll have to say something. If you logged into Twitter on Friday night, you would have thought this was as big a cultural moment Friday night as Man Walking on the Moon or the Beatles visiting Ed Sullivan. Here's the secret. Something I've been trying to tell all of you. Gifts I've been trying to tell you. True. Since they traded away, it might be like this every single Sunday. Because Mahomes is a freak. And that arm is a cannon. And that he's a gift from the football gods.
Mahomes is a freak. That arm is a cannon. And he is a gift.
Gift from the football gods. That's Peter Schrager from Good Morning Football. And let me tell you what. You guys are really fun in the mornings there and, can talk up a good show. I do quite enjoy them, actually, sometimes when I'm able to catch the show in the morning. But slow your roll, okay? Patrick Mahomes, football god. No. You know who Patrick Mahomes will be? I'll tell you who he's gonna be when his career is all said and done. You want to guess who I'm gonna say?
Tom Brady.
Yeah, right. No, he's gonna be Jay Cutler.
Oh, that's so brutal. That's so brutal.
He's exactly the same guy. Listen, I don't know that for a fact, but all the intangibles that I hear about him, he's a gunslinger. So was Cutler. The guy already has issues with giving up interceptions in practices. That's what gunslingers do, though. Gunslingers take their chances, and they're about 50-50 with what they're able to do. They either make a touchdown or they throw an interception. And that's what Patrick Mahomes' career is going to be.
So you are not on board my third-round Patrick Mahomes pick in our dynasty draft?
Absolutely not. I thought that was above and beyond ridiculous.
I'm all on it, man. I am on that train.
Uh-huh.
I am with you. I think Mahomes throws deep balls to Tyreek the Freak, and they catch and they convert. And if you have those two as a tandem, man, you are in good spots every week.
Except for the minus, 6 points from the 3 interceptions he throws in the game. That'll hurt.
Maybe. I like Mahomes, man. I'm on that train. I'm on the train.
Okay, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
What is it you've seen that makes you such on the hype train? I mean, he only played Week 17, and it wasn't even against all the starters because they sat their starters for the playoffs.
I think that the offense that they have with Hunt and Tyreek is really going to be...
And Sammy Watkins, don't forget him.
Sure, is really going to be able to open it up and give him lots of options. I think they did great last year, and I think he will step in and be able, again, to do those long bombs. If he can do those, he only needs to convert one. I care about fantasy points. I'm sorry for you KC fans out there, but my fantasy team does not care if you win or lose. They care if Tyreek makes a 70-yard catch. And if he can do that every week, it's a gift from the fantasy gods.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're basically telling me that Patrick Mahomes is already a better quarterback than what Alex Smith was able to do last year. And I'm sorry, that was Alex Smith's best year of his career.
Yeah, but Alex Smith has never been that guy. Alex Smith, when
he was last year.
When he was with the 49ers, he wasn't that guy that threw those bombs.
But he was last year.
That made those last-minute runs. He wasn't the guy who was like Aaron Rodgers that when 20 seconds were left, you still thought, all right, there's a chance. He wasn't that guy. Patrick Mahomes
he wasn't, but guy. He was last year.
Not really. Not to me.
What are you talking about? He took a lot more shots down deep than he ever has in his career last year.
Well, that's great.
Are you kidding?
That's great that he did. I didn't get the feeling that he was the Aaron Rodgers level quarterback.
Well, there's not many in the league who are.
Patrick Mahomes.
You're out of your mind. I just can't wait to see this fall flat on your face.
Okay. I may be overstating. He may be more like a Cam Newton.
I'd buy into that more than him being Aaron Rodgers. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough. I get excited, and I go a little above and beyond. But let's if I temper expectations, I think Patrick Mahomes is a great dynasty pick. I think he's a tier 2 quarterback, right behind Newton. That's where I put him.
Oh, it makes me cringe. But let's move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another hype train guy. Calvin Ridley, 36 deep ball from Matt Ryan and a TD from Schaub. What's your thoughts on Ridley?
Oh, man. I thought you were going to ask just what my thoughts were, because my first thought is, Matt Schaub's still in the league? I had no idea he was still around, even as a backup.
Yeah, he's there. He's hiding. He's making a lot of money, too.
He's kind of like Cortland Sutton. in the sense that the only way he's really going to make an impact is if one of the starters get hurt.
So he's great for dynasty and keeper, but not so much for redraft. Is where you're at with him.
That's basically how I feel.
All right, that's fair.
I just don't think. I mean, I think a lot of people are looking at Calvin Ridley and saying, "Wow, he's going to be this year's Juju Smith-Schuster," and I'm just not feeling that because Mohamed Sanu, for being not really a fantasy playmaker, he still is a very good wide receiver, a very good NFL wide receiver, and does make plays alongside Julio. So I just don't see Calvin Ridley being the guy that replaces him out there on the field as a starter.
Okay. I don't got much else to say about it. So we can move on to the next hype train game.
Yep.
Buccaneers 30, Titans 14. Another quarterback way up there, 226 yards. Chris Godwin, Justin Watson, and Deshaun Jackson all received passes. 54 yards from Deshaun Jackson, touchdowns from Godwin and Watson from Jameis Winston. Is Jameis Winston better than Patrick Mahomes?
Is this going to be the standard now? It's X or Patrick Mahomes?
As long as we're talking quarterbacks.
Oh,
I think that's it.
Well, okay, it already hurts his value that he's suspended for the first 3 games. So that already has to be taken into consideration for the season. I'm not a believer, first off, in the Dirk Cutter offensive scheme. I think with all the weapons they have, they should be able to do more. And I feel like he doesn't get maximum efficiency out of his players with his play calling. So that already hinders the offense in itself. And then with Jameis Winston, man, I just feel like we've seen him now for a few years, and he really hasn't had that breakout yet that everybody was expecting. Good quarterback, not great, not really good for fantasy, in my opinion.
Okay. Good. I'm in agreement with that. I don't think he's the standard for fantasy. I think you're going to find better options. Even in a 2 QB league, I think he's stash at best.
Yeah, Mike, in a 2 quarterback league, I would think he'd be my bye week fill-in quarterback, like the 3rd quarterback I grab.
So there is a guy, though, that we have to talk about in this game. I am all aboard this hype train. I have read the King James Bible, and thou shalt need to draft Taywan Taylor. Erupted for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns on 4 receptions.
In preseason.
You telling me to calm down?
Yeah. It's week 2 of preseason. Guys, listen, I'm sorry, but preseason's fun to watch, and it's good to see, who's healthy, who's not, and there's certain things to like about preseason. We can't get all hyped up from the results of games, especially in the 2nd week. 3rd week, when the starters play a little more and they open up the playbook a little more, sure. I do like the 3rd week. I think there's a lot more fantasy information that comes out of those games than the rest of the preseason. But guys, it's preseason. It's not. Teams aren't showing their cards. They'd be stupid if they did. They would be writing. They would be writing their own season off if they exposed their whole playbook in the preseason.
But you're not drafting him in the first 10 rounds. You're probably not even drafting him in the first 15 rounds. But let's say last pick of the draft, and it's him or Spencer Ware, him or Quincy Enunwa. Who are you taking? You taking a flyer on this guy, or are you taking the establishment?
I mean, if I'm the Kareem Hunt owner, I'm taking Spencer Ware. But, I mean, maybe with a Quincy Enunwa, sure, maybe I'll take a Taywan Taylor. Listen, I'm not saying he's a bad guy to grab at the end of your draft. There's a lot of these type of guys out there that are great to grab towards the end of your draft or in the double-digit rounds. And Taywan Taylor is a good example of that. But I'm not going to boost it. Probably what's going to end up happening is his ADP is going to skyrocket, and he's not going to be in the double-digit rounds anymore. You're going to get him more like in an 8th or 9th round at some point because of things like this. And this is why it's silly. It's silly to follow these kind of trends where people get boosted up for no good reason.
So, tempered expectations on this guy. Last round, pick him up if he's there. He's an Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, don't make his ADP rise any higher than it has to be. Keep it in the double digits.
All right, let's talk about the Rams and the Raiders, man. And I just want to read for you what I wrote here, because I was very excited at the beginning of what I wrote, and then at the end you can hear reality come crashing down. So what I said is, after rushing 86 yards on 13 carries in the first preseason game, Chris Warren III went for 110 yards on 18 carries, including a 3-yard TD run, caught a pass for 7 yards in the Raiders' 19-15 loss at the Rams. By the way, all the Rams starters sat, so...
Yeah, so that means that this is really just, again, more preseason nonsense, and we don't buy into the hype.
But Draft Genius, if you're listening to this and you haven't talked about this guy, what are you doing, man? Talk about this guy.
Talk about him, I guess. I don't know what you really want me to say on this guy. I didn't even know who he was.
Yeah, and I don't think most other people do either. In redrafts, he's probably not even worth picking up. But he did do something in week 2, so threw him out there. He is on the hype train.
He did something. That's what we all need to know. Hey, this guy is in the league, and he did something.
Well, I got 2 more guys, and make no mistakes, they're no Patrick Mahomes, but they are quarterbacks. 49ers, Texans, Jimmy Garoppolo, Deshaun Watson, both of them did stellar. What do you think about both of them? Is Deshaun Watson the number 2 quarterback?
I'm torn on how I feel about Deshaun Watson, because I feel like what we saw last year was just it was too efficient from what he was doing in 7 games. I mean, 7 games, 13 touchdowns, and I'm just I don't know. I don't believe that he's going to be able to put up the mega fantasy points he was putting in on a weekly basis. I think you cut those down a bit, but I still think he's at least in the top 5. I just don't think he's the number 2.
Okay, so he's still a tier 1. He's still a tier 1. Who would you put in that first tier with him? And then who would you put right under that tier?
I'd put Aaron Rodgers, obviously, in tier 1. I'd put Tom Brady. At this point, the obvious guys. I'd still have Russell Wilson in my top 5. And I'm also going to throw in a little bit of a surprise for you, Andrew Luck, back in the top 5.
Ooh, that is a surprise. That's a surprise,
but listen, there's nothing that's led me to believe that Andrew Luck's not going to be ready week 1 and be ready to come back and play at that elite level that he has in the past. I mean, he was injured. That's all. This reminds me of the situation where Peyton Manning, granted the injuries were a lot more significant. It was more severe in Peyton's case, where he had that neck injury, and people didn't think he was going to come back and be able to do anything. But that's what I feel like everybody's looking at Andrew Luck now. Is like, well, he was injured for a whole year and a few games from the season before. What can he do? He's been gone so long. Well, so what? Guys do come back. And a quarterback, especially very good ones to elite ones, are able to come back at top 4. So for me, Andrew Luck's in that top 5 for this year.
All right, and you got Deshaun Watson in there with Andrew Luck. So you got, and you got, I'm guessing, got Cam in that top.
Well, I already listed Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, and Deshaun Watson.
Okay. So that's it. That's where you're at. Those are your 5, and everybody else kind of falls underneath. So at least Deshaun Watson's in there. So you do have some faith in him being a top 5 quarterback.
I have faith in him. It just wouldn't surprise me if he played more like a top 10 instead of a top 5. But he could be right on the cusp if he finishes, 6 or 5. It wouldn't surprise me.
All right. All right. So we're gonna
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
In there, I think he's getting overhyped. I think he's way overhyped. I mean, to be fair, in the games that they won last year, I mean, most of it was because of field goals.
What was it? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, he needs a kicker to win his games for him. So,
Yeah.
Yikes.
I'm a Bay Area native. I'm over here in California, the greatest state in the union. But let me tell you, our
I just
stadium.
sneezed. Sorry.
I heard you. Bless you. So I was driving by the stadium, and there is just a giant picture of Jimmy Garoppolo on the side of Levi Stadium. It is massive. It's the size of 3 houses put together. It's just Jimmy Garoppolo's face hanging out up there.
It's almost as ridiculous as your Patrick Mahomes love. Almost.
Well, you know what? I've got a hype train. I've got a hype train pick right here that will put my Patrick Mahomes love to shame.
Okay.
All right, here it is. I know people love the Jaguars, but I am seeing consistently people picking the Jaguars in 9th, 10th round. I saw the Jaguars get picked 9-9 before Duke Johnson, before Carlos Hyde, before Pierre Garçon, and everybody that comes after. I'm seeing the Jaguars getting picked before people are filling their flex positions. What is going on?
I always find it to be a bit ridiculous that people do grab defenses that high. But if you're going to grab one, I mean, Jaguars are probably the best one to grab.
But our defense is never as good as people make them out to be. I mean,
but that's not fair to say because I think leagues are very different with the way the scoring system works for defenses. I've seen a lot of different variations to how defenses score points. Some don't score any and they're completely useless. Some score outrageous amounts of points. One year, like 6 years ago, when the Bears still had, a good defense with Urlacher and Briggs and all those guys, and the defense, I don't know what we were doing for the points, but all I know is I beat a guy thanks to Doug Martin in his rookie season and the Bears defense. They both scored a combined 100 points for me in one game.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, the Bears defense had like 50 points.
It's ridiculous. It shouldn't. The defense shouldn't cancel out your players.
No, they shouldn't. And so we had to, but we of course adjusted our defensive points scoring system, and it hasn't been the same since. But my point is, some leagues the defense can go crazy and score ridiculous amounts of points. I mean, hell, Jaguars are one of those teams that with that secondary, they are going to get interceptions. They can, which always have the potential to lead to defensive scoring touchdowns. So, I mean, I'm not going to say, yeah, guys, go draft your defense before your flex. I'll never recommend that. That's a really stupid comment to make for advice. But, you can do worse than drafting Jaguars defense in the double-digit rounds. Say like in a little earlier than where most people will be drafting their defenses.
Most people draft their defenses in the last round, and I think for the most part, a majority of your fantasy teams don't need the Jaguars defense. Your Broncos pickup, your Saints pickup in the later rounds is going to do you just fine. Now, if your defense is scoring you 40 points a game, okay, I see it, I understand it. But really, if you look at defensive scores, maybe they vary by less than 5 points a game. So you'd be better off to pick up a Duke Johnson. You'd be better off to pick up a Garçon. Definitely check out your team's scoring. But if it's like most leagues, man, your defense should come way late, right before the kickers, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I'm not going to argue that point.
All right. Well, and that does it for our preseason games and our hype train.
Hype train.
All aboard! Good night, train!
All right, so we got one more segment. We got one more segment to go.
Hold on, breaking news.
Yes.
The Seahawks coach Pete Carroll says that Doug Baldwin, who has been dealing with a bit of a knee injury this offseason, will for sure be ready week 1 against the Broncos.
Nice.
That's some encouraging news considering that Doug Baldwin has been slipping in the ADP quite a bit. And if I'm not mistaken, no, I guess I am mistaken. I thought in this next segment, I thought he was one of your guys. My bad. Oh well, but Baldwin, I've seen in just in just doing some mock drafts of my own. He's been slipping into third or fourth round, where regularly you'd see Doug Baldwin going in the second round.
Well, as long as we're talking about news, we'll go through some of that real quick. You talked about Doug Baldwin. We got Adam Shaheen diagnosed with a sprained right foot.
Mm-hmm.
We got go ahead.
I just wanted to say, as a Bears fan and of course somebody who follows the team pretty closely, I do know that they do really like Adam Shaheen, want to get him involved in like 2 tight end sets. I think they were, from the practice reports, from the joint practices from the Broncos, I know that they were saying that Trey Burton and Adam Shaheen were really giving the defense problems being out there together. They were really, really great mismatches for the defense. So I'm encouraged to get Adam Shaheen back, and very excited that even though the injury looked a little bit more gruesome than it obviously was, it was just a lower ankle sprain, and I hope he'll be ready back for week 1.
Oh, you know what? We can jump right back onto the hype train, because I forgot this piece of news.
Uh-oh.
Adrian Peterson to play in Friday's dress rehearsal.
Oh, yeah.
There's definitely a train to get on there, and I'm seeing people get on it. Are you on this train with Adrian Peterson, Nick?
Well, first, I'm very disappointed that Darius Geis ended up tearing his ACL. I'm sure you guys have covered that and talked about it extensively, so I won't go too into that. But from my point of view, I was very disappointed when he went down. And now it opens the door for situations like this, where there's going to be old veterans coming back, trying to reclaim that glory they once had, and that's Adrian Peterson. Listen, I mean, there's going to be a point where it'll be okay to draft Adrian Peterson as a flyer, but I'll tell you now, if I see Adrian Peterson up there in like your top 5 rounds, you're all doing it wrong. You're crazy. You're just insane. It'll be insanity. I mean, do you think he has anything left in the tank?
You know what? I jumped on that train last season because I knew it was good clickbait, so I threw a bunch of pictures of Adrian Peterson up there, and that's what Adrian Peterson is. He's clickbait. He's like Marshawn Lynch for the Raiders. Get as many tickets as you can sold before you sell the team. I don't think Adrian Peterson has what's left in the tank, and I don't think he has much left to give. He is a support player at best. Don't go dropping your last round pick and picking up Adrian Peterson. You're just going to end up dropping him. I mean, maybe do it because you're going to drop your last round pick anyways, but realistically, you're not going to get the Adrian Peterson that you're hoping for. It's like getting Jamal Charles.
Right, absolutely. All right, let's run through this last segment. Adam, go ahead, open us up, and let's get into it.
All right. So what we did here, Sleeper Wire, we run year-round. We do a show every week in the off season, right? And we got the draft kit, we've got the mail sack, and by the way, you guys listening right now, get your questions in. The mail sack is coming out today. So,
woo!
Yeah, they're going to be live, taking your calls, taking your questions. So if you're wondering, why should I pick Patrick Mahomes? Well, they're going to answer it today. So make sure you get that question in. Make sure you get all your questions into the mail sack coming out today on Sleeper app with Sleeper Wire on the Mixler. Check that out. But since we do so many mock drafts, what I wanted to do is I wanted to compare our mock draft from 4 months ago to the mock draft we did 6 days ago. It's a 12-man PPR, and I want to highlight some of the players that I saw rise and drop the most. Not maybe a round, and maybe 2 rounds, and maybe 5 rounds. I just want to get your opinion, Nick, on whether they should be where they were at 4 months ago or whether they should be where they're at today, and kind of your thought process on these players.
Okay, shoot. Go ahead.
All right. First pick is going to be obvious, and I'm not putting in any players that were injured or, tore anything, or like a Julian Edelman. I mean, obviously we know why their spots fall. But this guy right here, this is still in the air. LaShawn McCoy has dropped 4 months ago. He was 2.5. 6 days ago, he was 3.5. Now, that's only a 1-round drop, but we're talking second to third round. Should LaShawn McCoy go 2.5? And if so, why aren't more people drafting him there?
No, I don't think he should be going in the second round. I don't even really like his third round projection at this point. I think there's too many question marks. There's too many question marks with the off-the-field issues, whether there's a looming suspension coming. It's quite possible that does take into effect. And not to mention, he's on the wrong side of 30 now. He has a lot of mileage, and he's on a really bad offense. I mean, ridiculously bad. Yeah. This is why I'm also interested in seeing how Josh Allen plays in the third preseason game with the ones. Maybe this offense looks a little better than it has, but I don't really want a piece of LaShawn McCoy this year.
All right. And we're just going to jump from player to player. I was going to get your opinion.
Sure.
So, all right. So the next one, and for those of you that don't know, I'm sure most of you do, but when I say 1.9, I mean first round, 9th pick. If I say 3.5, third round, 5th pick. So the next round, 1.9, Fournette. 4 months ago, he was 1.9. 6 days ago, he was 1.9. He has not moved at all in the entire offseason. Is Fournette a first-round choice?
I think he should be a little lower in the first round, like maybe in the 12th pick. I could see it. I'm more comfortable grabbing him as my second-round pick, depending on what I'm getting in the first round. If I'm, my strategy is always in the first 2 rounds, grab an elite running back or top running back, grab a top wide receiver. That's what I want. I want the best of both worlds. I don't like going running back, and I really don't like going wide receiver, especially this year. So, with that being said, though, I think it's not far off where he should be going, but he could go a little lower, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. So let's jump to the next guy. Now, this guy had a drastic drop. 4 months ago, Hyde was chosen 4-8, and in the draft we did, he is now going 7-7. That's 3 rounds. Does Hyde deserve to be higher than 7-7?
I don't think so. I think there's too many question marks around this backfield being a committee. I think you're going to see Carlos Hyde maybe get some first down and second down work, which is okay, but then Nick Chubb at some point in the season you've got to figure is going to challenge him for more work, and you got Duke Johnson. It's just a mess. I really don't want a part of the backfield for the Browns, at least not until later.
All right, we're going to skip past Thomas. We're going to go to Sony Michel. It's Sony Michel, right? That's how you say it?
Yes, and Sony Michel, I just wanted to add, probably 4 months ago, the reason that this changed is it was because of injury. He had a procedure on his knee, a knee scope, and so that's why they're saying that he may not be ready for week 1, which is the reports that came out. This is why he's probably dropped. Just wanted to add that in there.
That makes sense, because he dropped from the 6th round to the 8th round, and that's probably why. Yeah. All right, so we can move right past him into your boy, your number 1 quarterback, Carson Wentz. But he has dropped drastically. Now, I understand different strategies, different quarterbacks, but again, this is a 12-team PPR, and he went 7.5 4 months ago and 11.2. He was the quarterback 3 taken 4 months ago. He's the quarterback 6 taken now. Has Carson Wentz fallen, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah, of course. I think that the reason is there's still this so many question marks that I guess 4 months ago you thought, they'll be cleared up, in the coming months. Maybe they'll say that he's ready for week 1. The reports back then were that he was going to be closer to being ready to week 1 than not. But now the questions are still looming 6 days, from 6 days ago. We still don't have a clear answer on if he's going to be ready to play on week 1. And that's kind of why he's going to drop, because there's going to be safer quarterback options. Shit, at this point, Andrew Luck's a safer quarterback option than Carson Wentz.
All right, so let's say in the next couple of weeks we get reports saying Carson Wentz is fully healthy. Does he go right back to QB3?
No, because I already gave you my top 5. I think Carson Wentz just outside of it. He's top 10, but he's just outside my top 5.
Okay. All right, fair enough. We're going to jump to the next guy, Kenyon Drake, friend of the show. What's up, Kenyon? So I know you're listening. I know you're out there. Tune us in. Give us a call. We'll have our people call your people. So Kenyon Drake, 4.5 4 months ago, 5.6 now. Dropped a whole round. There's a lot of guys in that round, a lot of running backs you could take. Is he a 4th rounder? Is he a 5th rounder?
he's we kind of talked about Kenny Drake, and I'm sorry. I know you're a friend of the show. And if you're listening, I'm really sorry, but I don't want a piece of you. I don't want you.
If he hears this, he might want a piece of you.
Well, maybe, but then again, that would be pretty silly, considering that he's an NFL football player, and I'm just some guy, talking about fantasy football. So, listen, I think there's a possibility he could surprise, but the chances are slim, and it's all because of that team in general. And Adam Gase is proving to be a coach who I don't think knows how to really run a whole NFL team.
All right. Now I want to get into a guy who 4 months ago went 9.5 and 6 days ago went undrafted. Quincy Enunwa. Where's he at?
Well, you know what I think is going on is you really haven't heard anything out of training camp about Quincy Enunwa and what he's doing. I mean, I guess if you're a diehard Jets fan, you probably know more than the average fantasy football analyst, but there really hasn't been anything coming out of camp that is making us get excited. Not to mention, the emergence of Robbie Anderson last year really probably hurts Quincy Enunwa in general.
All right. Well, there's another player that also went undrafted 6 days ago and was drafted 4 months ago. Now, granted, he was drafted in the last round, but Terrell Pryor, is he even worth a roster spot? Would you rather have Terrell Pryor or Adrian Peterson?
Adrian Peterson.
Oh, that's brutal for the former quarterback, man.
Yeah, that's really brutal. But, listen, we're talking about he's probably the third receiver on this Jets offense behind Robbie Anderson and who we just talked about, Quincy Enunwa. Do you really want the third wide receiver on the Jets or an aging veteran running back who at least has a chance to be the starting running back on a team?
All right, fair. 4 months ago, 12.2. 6 days ago, 15.2. Josh Doxson. Where are you at with him?
Josh Doxson. Man, this is his last year to prove he is worth a damn at this point. He's been dealing with injuries and not really being the guy that they drafted him to be at this point. So this is his last chance, and I think this is the spot he should be going. He should be towards the end of your draft.
All right, and I just got a few more before we wrap it up because we are running low on time. So, so we got 10.4 4 months ago. We got 13.4 6 days ago. Devontae Booker, who I like a lot. Do you think Devontae Booker is a 13th round or a 10th round choice?
I think that from what we're seeing in training camp and preseason, I think that this is very valid. Devontae Booker just doesn't, they can type all they want that he's going to be the guy starting week one, but that's just not true. He's not. Royce Freeman's shown that he's the kind of guy that can be that workhorse. Yeah, they're going to probably split some time and share the backfield for a little bit, but I think Royce Freeman's going to be the breakaway guy. I'm very high on Royce Freeman, so Devontae Booker's great to grab at this point as his handcuff. All
right. And I got one more to talk about, and this is the one that's interested me the most because he's risen in ADP, and a lot of people are very high on him. What's your thoughts on Chris Carson? He was drafted in the 11th round 4 months ago and in the 8th round today.
Well, with the news that we broke today about Rashad Penny possibly now being able to be ready for week one, I think we're going to see Chris Carson's stock drop back down a bit, maybe towards more the 9th and 10th round. I don't think he goes all the way back down to the 11th. And for good reason. I think Rashad Penny was drafted in the NFL draft to be the guy, but Carson's having a great camp, so they're probably going to use these guys as a 1-2 punch, which means I think Rashad Penny is being overdrafted for his current ADP. I think his stock should drop because I see these guys splitting workload. And again, we talked about this. The offensive line there, poo-poo.
All right. So I guess poo-poo is where we'll leave.
So we have so much going on, guys. We have 4 shows overall: Dynasty Wire, East Vibe, Break from the Grind, and of course, Sleepwire. And this season, you guys will be able to find us everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're all over. You guys just need to search for Sleepwire. Professor Chris, Prophet Hoos, Dirty Jobs, Lucas, Producer Steve, BFTG George, and Jabba. That's Jabba. So, guys, please go on sleepwire.com. Find us. And one last thing I want to add in there. Please, guys, go to GoFundMe.com/RobJR. I'm sure we have links all over our website. You know, we've talked about Rob's story plenty of times, dealing with chronic Lyme disease, because he's a great guy. And, don't you want to be a good person?
Thank you. And thank you so much for listening and donating, guys. We've raised thousands of dollars to help out Rob. He is very happy with that. He has become a bigger part of our show. He has been able to get treatments that he needs. So thank you so much for all your help, and all of those of you who have given and are in the Pro-Am. We got some really cool stuff coming for you. Check out our brand new website with the Draft Genius on it. You can just hit the website, click that little button, and you can see everything in the Draft Genius. Now, you can't get to it unless you buy the Draft Genius, but you can see all that stuff that's in it. And for those of you who are Patreons, you get instant access.
There you go. Well, Adam, this has been great. I've really enjoyed the time with you on the show. It's great to be able to finally get my docile tones out there for everyone to listen to. It's been great, and I look forward to doing more of it this season.
Yeah, I look forward to it too. And don't forget to listen to the mail set, guys.
All right, for Adam, I'm Nick Simmel saying so long, everybody. Good night.
All right. That was good.
Woo! Yeah, man. Good show.